Hey YouTube, so I decided to take you on my morning walk today because guess what? Getting outside and exercising every day requires a lot of motivation. And today we are talking about motivation, how to motivate children that you work with and children that you live with to be their best selves. Working with kids for a long time as a special education teacher, I come from a place of a lot of experience and I'm here to help you today. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Rachel from the Behavior Check-In and I am a special education teacher in Mississippi. Now, for a while, I have been working with kids with special needs, kids who struggle with executive functioning, ADHD, organization, learning, motivation, behavior. So I have a lot of experience in helping these kids find their motivation and learn how to be successful. So I'm going to go ahead and share some tips with you today that can help you as a parent or as a teacher motivate the child that may be struggling to find that motivation themselves internally and get them headed on the right path. So first, before we head into anything, I would love if you would subscribe to my channel, if you would like, and if you would share if this information is helpful to you, because doing so really gets my message out there, it helps other people, and it helps other teachers. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. When you're struggling with a child who has motivation issues, you need to first figure out why they are unmotivated. Now, I kind of feel that you need to start from a baseline. Looking at a child that's not motivated, you need to go in and check in on their mental health and their physical health. When I'm talking about mental health, if they aren't motivated, that can be very symptomatic of depression, anxiety. Most people generally want to be successful, they want to be well-liked, they want to be happy. So that is kind of a trigger or red flag to you if your child is just really unmotivated to do anything. They don't want to shower, that kind of stuff. They don't want to hang out with friends, things they enjoyed, they don't want to do anymore. They really need a mental health checkup. In conjunction with that, a physical as well, because there's a lot of underlying health and mental health issues that can cause a lack of motivation, and that needs to be explored really before you can jump into any behavioral interventions, because behavioral interventions are not going to be very successful if a child is not feeling their mental and physical best. So after you figured out why, and maybe it's just because nothing's inspiring them, you need to step back and look at yourself. How are you addressing things with your child? Are you nagging, or are you building and supporting? Now, as a parent, as a teacher, I know it's really easy to fall into those places where we're just telling because we want our kids to be successful. We love them so much. We want to see them doing what they're doing, reaching their full potential, because that's what we're here for. And we know as adults, we've lived through life, we've lived through experiences, so we know that they have to get good grades and have a good work ethic and all of that stuff so that they can live independently and be healthy and happy. But I want you to stop for a second and think, what am I in control of? What can I control? What can't I control? Well, I'll tell you first. You can't control your child. You can't even really control a 2-year-old because they're responsible for their attitudes. They're responsible for what motivates them. They're responsible for them as a human being. You can't change their core beliefs. That's just who they are. But you can change the way that you handle yourself, how you talk to your child, how you motivate your child, because the way that you talk to your child really does become their inner voice. If every time they try something, you're coming at them with well, that's great, honey, but I think you need to do this, this, and this, and it's not really constructive, they can really take that in a negative way, like, oh, everything I do is a failure. And that can really build that negative self-talk that they can start saying towards themselves. Well, I can't try anything new because every time I try something new, there's something wrong. So you really need to kind of be positive about anything that they go in the right direction. And when you give them that feedback, you need to make sure that that feedback is positive but constructive. I mean, I don't want you to come in every time they get a good grade and say, oh, you're so smart, you got that A because you're so smart. You need to bring up the process. You got that A because you worked hard, because you put in the effort, because you studied. Really lay out what they did. You stayed up the other night and we studied for 2 hours on those multiplication facts. You worked for this good grade. This was because you put in the work and the effort. And those sorts of things are going to be a lot more helpful in helping the child see how they are in control of their own success. Another thing is you need to be empathetic. Kids are gonna have hiccups along the way. You need to be understanding to the way that they deal with them. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to talk about it. We need to talk about our failures and the things that we mess up. We need to be empathetic if our child is going through something and they're having a mental health issue, they have an executive functioning issue. Children with ADHD have executive functioning issues. Executive functioning issues are basically the frontal cortex of your brain has a hard time knowing where to start, knowing how to organize things, knowing how to organize their thoughts, and getting things together. They can walk in and see something and it can be completely overwhelming to them. So that's where you need to guide them with empathy. I've found that with ADHD children, they need someone to sit next to them and model that. And it's not always a one and done thing. They might need that continually. They need that support and that praise, especially if it's a child who has depression also as an issue. They need to have you there to kind of support them and tell them they are doing it right. Because if they're depressed or really anxious, then they're not going to feel confident doing something by themselves. And they need that support where you can sit there and say, oh, you are doing such a good job. Like, let's take pulling the weeds, for example. If you're next to your child and you're showing them and they're pulling the weeds, you can say, wow, you're doing a really good job. You've got a good pile. I like how you're grabbing them. You're pulling out the base root, all these things. Really highlight what they are doing well, because that's going to keep them going. They're going to feel successful. You also need to make sure that your attitude's right. I know it can be hard to be patient with a kid who seems like they're just having a hard time getting going, but you need to have a good attitude. You need to really think about, how am I coming across? Am I nagging? Is this how I would want to be talked to? And if that's not how you feel, if you feel like if someone came at you like that, you would get defensive, then it's time to step back. Really, you need to just come from a place of love and support, because you're not going to change your kid. Motivation is really an internal thing. You need to help them build those steps. One thing that's always very helpful for motivation is finding what kids like. If you can find doing something that helps your kid and it's enjoyable to them, they're going to do it more. For example, I'm just going to use weight loss and exercise. Every time I want to start to lose weight, I always come up with this really gung-ho plan that involves, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and running for 2.5 hours on the treadmill or something ridiculously out of control like that, because that's what I think is going to get me to my goal. Although that may be well intended, that's not realistic, because I'm probably going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times if I'm really motivated. But at some point, there's nothing in it for me. I have ran on the treadmill and I'm still fat. And that's frustrating. So I need to find something that I enjoy. And so I've started moving towards just walking every day, and looking at reframing it as more of I want to feel better, I want to accomplish something, and I want to still have energy and motivation and drive and not feel like crap afterwards. So walking's worked for me. It's something that I enjoy. And guess what? I've been really consistent with it. When you don't do something that you don't enjoy, then consistency is really hard. So when you're teaching a child to be motivated, or you're trying to help them be motivated, you really need to give them something that they enjoy, that does not have a lot of pressure. People, kids, everyone, we avoid things when there's a lot of pressure on us. There's a lot of stress. This is why you might see a lot of kids freak out and want to quit a sport. When the parents get overly involved in it, they have these big pipe dreams for these kids. They're out there every day pushing, driving, and you see this kid who does have a lot of talent suddenly decide, like in their sophomore, junior year, they're done with the sport. That's because it got pushed. It lost the fun. It wasn't motivating anymore, because they felt like if they didn't level up to the next level, they were going to disappoint their parents, or they were going to disappoint themselves. They started setting expectations that were a little too high, and the pressure and the intensity came, and they just lost motivation. That you don't put the pressure, that you celebrate the small victories. And that makes it much more likely that they're going to continue to do it. I thought it was really interesting. You know, some of the professional athletes' kids play basketball, for example, and they were talking about Kobe Bryant and how when he came out and watched his daughter, he wasn't yelling and screaming. He wasn't one of those parents, you know, and if she had a good game, then he celebrated that. If she didn't, he was like, hey, you know, it's okay. Let's go grab something to eat. You tried, you played hard, I'm happy with it. That's kind of how we need to treat things with our kids, because we put too much pressure, they're done. So we need to make sure that we kind of eliminate that stress and that pressure and just really work on the baby steps. All right, to get kids motivated, we need to help them find their hopes, dreams, and passions, which is a big task and it's not gonna happen overnight. But this is where those conversations come in, and really just throw it out there because you want to encourage them to be successful. So if you sit there and you start talking about what they want to do, they might say, oh, I want to be a professional video gamer. You may think in your mind, all right, kid, that's not a real job. Like, you need to go figure out how to be an accountant or something. Well, the kid doesn't want to be an accountant. So if you push them having to go to be an accountant, they're going to resist and fight and not be motivated to do well in school. If you sit there and kind of feed into their dream a little bit, yeah, they probably aren't going to be a professional gamer. It's extremely competitive, but hear them out. Okay, that's what you want to do. That's awesome. So what steps do we need to have for this to happen? Well, let's research professional gamers. Let's go on YouTube and find out some of their stories. Starting off in professional gaming, you have to get discovered. And it's more than just playing games all day. Like, you've got to learn how to edit. You've got to be articulate enough to speak on camera so that people want to listen to you. You probably need a day job. You do need to learn these skills to get you to that point. You need to have a certain background to understand deals, marketing deals, revenue, and how to manage your money. And if you frame it to the kid and all the things that they're interested in, then you can really help them build learning around that. If you target it towards their interests, they're going to be a lot more motivated. Help them research, help them find those things. And when they find something that motivates them, help them create a real path. Sit down together and write out what it would take. They want to be a professional athlete. Oh, that's awesome. Well, guess what? Most professional athletes, they do a little stint in college. So you need to make sure that you're meeting those goals to get you to college. You've got to pass your classes. So that's something that can be very motivating to them as well. If you really sit down and talk about it, get with a coach. Go find someone who is a collegiate athlete to talk to them about their experience, to get them motivated. Those sorts of things are much more helpful if you give outside testimonials and you kind of show them. They'll be much more motivated to head in that direction, and they will see more of the value of the work they have to put in on the front end. I hope this helped you today. If it did, please give me a like. Please subscribe to my channel. And I really would love to hear comments from you. And I will see you in the next one.